Hi there. Today I want to talk to you about aquariums because I just found out a few days ago, unfortunately, at Georgia Aquarium here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of their whale sharks passed away. And it dawned on me that there's probably never been an Esperanto speaker in human history that has clocked as many hours in front of and talking about whale sharks than me. I worked at Georgia Aquarium there as one of their program specialists in the guest programs department, and my main job was, besides giving tours to groups of people, was standing next to the animals and talking about them on the microphone, interpreting their behavior, explaining to guests why it just did that thing or made that noise or why it looks that way, and asking them questions and getting them engaged with learning about the creatures instead of just staring at them in awe. Can you learn something about them and maybe something about their counterparts in the rest of the world and what we can do to help them? So that was my job there, and it's unfortunate that now they're down to just one whale shark. Taroko is gone, and now just Yushan remains there. But even reading the comment section on some of the news articles, I would see people get their information not quite right. You know, well, that's why you shouldn't have marine mammals in captivity like that. Well, okay, whale sharks aren't mammals. They're fish. They're the world's largest species of fish, the largest and most massive non-cetaceans on the planet. So because they're not mammals, they don't have to come up for air. They don't have a blowhole for that. They stay in the water to breathe. They just use their gills. They do come up to the surface, but that's for filter feeding, for munching up the algae. They're gentle giants. You can swim alongside them, and I watched as humans swam alongside those creatures in the aquarium. That's one of the programs that they offer, a journey with the gentle giants. Costs a lot of money to do that. There's only so many people per day that are permitted to go in there, but that was a really cool thing to see people swimming alongside. The largest type of shark is super gentle to hang out with. And so are the next biggest creatures in there, which would be the manta rays. So today, it's easy to go off on tangents and ramble for hours on end, because that was my job, was rambling for hours on end about these creatures and having more thoughts related to that. And speaking of that, and also, and you know, you might also know this, so I want to try to limit myself today to just give you a few words about aquariums. So let's get started. In Esperanto, how do we say the word for an aquarium? Well, that would be akvario. Akvario. And that's important to use when that's what you're talking about, because fiŝeo, well, is that a fish market? Is that a part of the lake that has a lot of fish in it? You got to be more specific. Fiŝeo is a little too broad. It works, but it's better to say akvario when you're talking about an aquarium. And then people who work at an aquarium are referred to as an aquarist, and that would be akvariisto. Akvariisto is an aquarist. If you say fishisto, then look in the dictionary. The first three definitions are going to be someone who captures fish, someone who breeds fish, or someone who sells fish. Well, that person's not doing any of them. They're caring for the fish, they're teaching people about fish, they're feeding the fish, they're researching the fish. Completely different situations. So to call an akvariisto a fishisto would not be helpful. So it's good to make the most specific word as possible when we're using Esperanto, because we want to be internationally understood. When I go to an Esperanto event and I tell someone from a far off country that I work at an aquarium, I don't anymore, but when I worked there, I wanted to be very specific. So I would say I was an akvariisto and not a fish capturer. So that is an aquarium and an aquarist, and those have the word akvo, because akvo means water in Esperanto. But how do we specify? How do we get specific that we're talking about salt water or fresh water? Well, salt water you can describe in a couple of ways. Salakvo, salty water. Salakvo is totally fine. But more commonly, I usually see marakvo. That means seawater. And it indicates and implies that you're talking about water with about a 3% saltiness, which you're going to find out in the ocean. So marakvo, salakvo. And what about fresh water like you'd find in most lakes? Would you say fresh akvo? Would you say fresha akvo? Not necessarily, and not for the same reason. Any kind of water can be fresh or stale, But if you mean not salty water, a freshwater fish needs what kind of water? It needs dolĉakvo. What? I was surprised seeing that in a dictionary. That doesn't seem like what we do in English at all. Well, we're not talking about English, we're talking about Esperanto, and many languages call freshwater sweet water. Dolce means sweet. So dolĉakvo. You might be picturing Sprite or Coca-Cola, someone pouring sugar into a river. No, it just means not salted. So you could either say dolĉakvo or you could say salakvo. You could use some form of that. Like, oh, it's a not salted lake. Cool. But dolĉakvo is, well, how you want to describe fresh water. So you can put fresh sweet water in, you could put fresh salt water in into a tank if needed to refresh it, but that doesn't mean what you think it does, okay? So there's salt water, there's fresh water, and let's just quickly talk about a couple of the creatures there. Balenŝarko is the word for a whale shark, and it's not a whale, it's a shark. It's a whale-sized, a whale-looking shark. So balenŝarko, so that means that ŝarko means a shark. And then the next biggest creature there, Georgia Aquarium, that I always point out to people is the manta ray. How do we say that? Well, to say a ray is rajo. Rajo is R-A-J-O. Rajo means a ray, not a ray of sunshine, or there's other things like radio waves. No, we're talking about cartilaginous fish. Rays have a lot of subspecies, so how do we say manta ray? Do we say mantelrajo? I hope not. That's a freaky thing to picture because mantelrajo would mean a praying mantis like stingray. Yikes. Manto's already taken. Sorry, manto means a mantis, a praying mantis. There is what you need to be picturing, so manta would be related to that. Instead, for a manta ray, say mantelrajo, because etymologically, it's called a manta ray because it's borrowing from Spanish and Portuguese, manta meaning mantelo, which means a cloak or a mantle. Giant cloak-looking thing. So mantelrajo is how you'd say a manta ray. You could also describe them as a devil ray because the whole genus, Mobula genus, about 12 different types of devil rays there are all called that because they have cephalic lobes that shove food in their mouths, and when those are not in use there, they usually curl up right and go right in front of them and stick out like what? A pair of horns. So it's a pair of horns like the devil. So diablorajo is another word for that type of creature, but you got to be specific. At Ocean Voyager there, the big habitat at the Georgia Aquarium, I would tell guests, all right, we've got 3 manta rays in here, and if you see some other creatures, see that those ones right there look like manta rays, but they're much smaller. Is that a little baby manta? No, no, no. That is the lesser devil ray species. The lesser devil ray only gets to be at maximum about 4 feet wide with their wingspan, so much smaller. And the baby ones we don't put right out here. We usually keep them away from the others until they're old enough to fend for themselves, and then we put them in the habitat. So no, those are not little baby manta rays. Those are full-grown adults, but from a different subspecies there. So that's a thing to know, is that not all devil rays are the same, but there is a big member of that that's popular there, and that is the manta ray that can have wingspans about 20 feet wide. It's just majestic to behold. So those are all the creatures that I'm going to talk to you about today. One more thing is, I think it's good to remember that the rays and sharks as well as skates are cartilaginous. So there's bony fish. Those would be osta is the word for bony, and then there's cartilaginous fish, where instead of bones, a skeleton made of bones, their skeleton is made of cartilage, like my ears, my flappy ears that are bendable. That's cartilage. I'm not breaking a bone to flap my ears there. So cartilage is what their whole skeleton is made out of, which is why if you're talking about sharks, it's not synonymous to say skeleto equals ostaro. A skeleton is not necessarily a bunch of bones. A skeleton can be comprised of cartilage, and it can also refer to like the flesh involved too there. So skeleto is a skeleton, osto is a bone, kartilago is the word for cartilage, and therefore kartilaga is the word for cartilaginous. And a way to remember that it's kartilago instead of cartilago is what you're probably going to be tempted to say, but no, it varies from English there. It's kartilago, is because you might find something with kartilago in lago. There are lots of river rays that can enjoy fresh water that might be found in a lake. Lago means a lake, so kartilago and lago, cartilage in the lake because of those rays down at the bottom of the riverbed there that then enters into the lake there. So cartilage is pronounced a little differently in Esperanto than it is in English. Oh, I could go on. I got a lot of fun facts, so I want to keep this a digestible, bite-sized video. It's good to be back. I've rearranged my entire setup here at the house to make it a little easier to make a grammar lesson. I had to do a lot of Marie Kondo magic and give some clothes to the homeless and all to get things in a state where I can make these videos more easily. It's been so long since I've gotten to make one, and it's good to be back. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you especially to my patrons on Patreon who are financially supporting this channel. The last few months, they've continued supporting me even though I haven't been making a lot of videos, but I have been working hard. I have been doing a lot of documenting and organizing of files for all the videos that came in from the Dulana Congresso in Toronto, as well as trying to work out logistics for the Blu-ray edition of the play 1910, the Esperanto play, which way more work than I had bargained for to get that all figured out, because Blu-ray software, authoring software is a nightmare to figure out and to compare and contrast, and each one has their own limitations of what I really needed to do, but well, this one can't do that. Sorry. Well, do I have to settle and just not have that special feature shown? Or I don't know. We're still working that out. But I was tired of waiting to do this until that's completely finished, so here I am talking to you. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.
Patrons, thank you so much for your support in making these videos and for helping people explore Esperanto.